If you ask me, can we truly say we know the limits of loyalty when it comes to the complex, blood-stained history of our favorite family in Port Charles? I keep coming back to the heavy silence hanging over the docks, that lingering sense of dread that has been permeating the air like a thick coastal fog that refuses to lift. We have watched Sonny struggle against the encroaching darkness for so long, and if you ask me, the walls are closing in faster than any of us anticipated. The cold, calculated maneuvers of Sidwell are not just a nuisance. They feel like a systematic dismantling of everything we hold dear. I find myself pacing around my living room, thinking about the sheer vulnerability of it all, how a man who has built an empire on ironclad rules is now standing on the precipice of total ruin. It is not just about the business anymore. It is about the soul of this town. And I fear that we are witnessing the final act of a long-standing tragedy that started way back when. You guys have to agree that the tension in Port Charles feels different this time, doesn't it? I was looking at the way the light hits the water at the harbor, and it reminds me of all those times Sonny looked out at the horizon, searching for answers he would never find. Now, with Sidwell tightening his grip, I can't help but feel that the air is heavy with the scent of an impending storm. It is almost as if the universe itself is conspiring to bring everything to a head. I keep thinking about the sheer audacity of Sidwell, moving like a phantom through the shadows of the city, manipulating outcomes, and ensuring that every path leads to a dead end. We, the fans, are forced to watch this agonizing slow-motion car crash, waiting for the inevitable moment when it all crumbles. If you ask me, there is something deeply unsettling about the way the power dynamics have shifted, leaving us all wondering who, if anyone, is left to save the day when the last pillar of the empire finally falls. Then there is the matter of the ghost that haunts our memories. When I heard whispers about Jason escaping the clutches of the WSB in Jakarta, my heart just about stopped. We have spent so much time grieving, hoping, and speculating about his return, and the thought of him reappearing now, in this climate of absolute chaos, feels like a double-edged sword. If you ask me, Jason is the only one who can navigate this particular hell, but at what cost? I can see it now. The way he would move, silent and lethal, an echo of a past that refused to stay buried. My gut tells me that his return won't be a happy reunion. It will be a collision of fates that were never meant to intersect again under such dire circumstances. We are talking about a man who has lived in the gray for so long that perhaps he has forgotten how to be anything else. Is he a savior, or is he just another casualty waiting to happen in this grand, cruel game? I keep replaying the scenario in my head, the potential for a sacrifice so profound it would shatter the very foundations of the Corinthos family. If you ask me, the psychological weight of such a moment would be catastrophic. Imagine the scene, the humidity, the smell of salt and diesel, the absolute silence before the trigger is pulled. If Jason were to step out of the shadows, not as a man of vengeance, but as a shield, a guardian angel with a heart of steel, it would change everything. The sheer raw irony of it, guys, is almost too much to handle. To have him stand between Sonny and the bullet that was meant to end the legacy, it would be the ultimate gut-wrenching confirmation that, despite everything, the bond between them remains the strongest force in this town. It makes me question everything I thought I knew about redemption, loyalty, and the price we pay for the lives we choose to lead. Let us talk about the way Sonny would react, because that is where the real devastation lies. If you ask me, Sonny has spent years trying to convince himself that he is ready for the end, but losing the one person who truly knows him would break him in a way he has never known. I can imagine the look of shock on his face, that momentary flicker of realization that his protector is gone, replaced by a cold, hollow space where his right hand used to be. It would not just be grief. It would be a reckoning. He would have to face the truth that his empire, his power, and his money were never enough to keep the people he loves safe from the shadows he created. We would see a man stripped bare, left with nothing but the cold, hard reality of his own choices. It is a terrifying thought, but if you ask me, it is the only way this story can reach its logical, albeit painful, conclusion. I have been obsessing over the dialogue, The way these characters would finally speak the words they have been burying for years. If you ask me, they don't need much. A look, a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the sacrifice would say more than 1,000 pages of script ever could. Think about the intensity in their eyes, the way their worlds would collide one last time. It is not just about the action, it is about the history of two men who were once brothers in arms, now divided by circumstance and reunited by a final, desperate act. I can see the regret, the years of unspoken apologies, all rushing to the surface in those final seconds. It is the kind of storytelling that keeps us up at night, isn't it? We crave that raw, visceral emotion because it reflects the best and worst parts of ourselves. Maybe I am overthinking this, but is it possible that Sidwell has known about this all along? What if this entire setup, this trap at the harbor, was designed specifically to draw Jason out of hiding? I suspect there is a much deeper layer to this than just a power struggle. If you ask me, Sidwell is not just playing chess. He is playing with the very fabric of our reality, pulling strings that he knows will force our heroes to show their hands. It feels like a setup, a cruel, calculated test of devotion. And we are the ones caught in the middle, analyzing every twitch of a character's face, every subtle change in tone, hoping for a sign that things might turn out differently. But in Port Charles, when has anything ever been simple? We know how this goes. The more we hope for a happy ending, the more the universe seems to laugh at our expense. I look at the people left behind, the ones who would have to pick up the pieces, and it makes me ache. If you ask me, the fallout from such a tragedy would be more than just a power vacuum. It would be a seismic shift in the social order of this town. Everyone would have to choose a side, and the lines would be drawn in blood. It is a nightmare scenario, but one that feels increasingly plausible as we approach the climax of this arc. I keep coming back to the idea that some debts can only be paid with blood, and maybe, just maybe, this is the bill coming due for decades of Corinthos rule. It is a dark, uncomfortable thought, but I cannot shake the feeling that we are hurtling toward a moment that will define the show for the next generation. What about the psychological toll on those left in the wake? I keep wondering how this would affect the kids, the legacy, the future of the organization. If you ask me, the destruction of the old guard is always the precursor to the rise of something even more unpredictable. We could be looking at a total collapse of the status quo, and honestly, that is both exciting and terrifying. I keep picturing the aftermath, the emptiness of the penthouse, the silence in the office, the way the city itself would seem to mourn. It is the kind of drama that turns viewers into fanatics, because we are not just watching a show anymore. We are watching the slow, agonizing transformation of a world we have lived in for so long. I am not saying it will happen, but I keep coming back to the imagery of the harbor. There is a sense of finality to it, like a book being closed on a chapter that was always meant to end in water and fire. If you ask me, the writers are setting the stage for something monumental. And if that means losing someone as iconic as Jason to save the man who started it all, then maybe that is the price. It is not what we want, but it is what the story demands. And that is the brilliance and the cruelty of it all. We get invested, we get attached, and then they pull the rug out from under us when we least expect it. It is infuriating, it is brilliant, and I would not have it any other way. If you ask me, the most dangerous thing in Port Charles is not the guns or the threats, it is the ghosts. And Jason is the biggest ghost of them all. His presence, even when he is not physically there, is felt in every decision Sonny makes, in every move the organization takes. If he were to return only to be lost again, it would be a cruel twist of fate that would leave us all reeling. I can feel the tension building. That strange, buzzing energy that precedes a major event. You guys, do you feel it too? That sense that we are on the edge of a cliff, looking down, knowing that there is nowhere left to go but over. It is exhausting, but it is also why we keep coming back, week after week, year after year. I find myself wondering if there is any way out of this for them. Is there a scenario where they both make it out? where the past doesn't catch up to them? If you ask me, the chances are slim. The narrative momentum is too strong, the history too heavy, the enemies too persistent. We have seen them dodge death so many times that it almost feels like their luck has to run out eventually. And when it does, it will be spectacular. It will be the kind of moment that people talk about for years. The kind of scene that goes down in soap opera history. I am ready for it, even if it hurts. I am ready to be devastated, to be shocked, to be completely and utterly consumed by the fallout. There is a part of me that wants to scream at the screen, to tell them to just stop, to walk away, to leave the life behind before it is too late. But I know that is impossible. They are who they are because of the life they lead. They are defined by the danger, the secrets, the sacrifices. If they were to walk away, they wouldn't be Sonny or Jason anymore. They would be ghosts of themselves. And maybe that is the tragedy, that they can never really be anything else. We are watching them fulfill their destinies, and there is a kind of beautiful, terrible poetry in that. It is the story of men who chose their path a long time ago, and now they have to see it through to the bitter, bloody end. If you ask me, the final showdown with Sidwell will be the moment that strips away all the facades. There will be no more secrets, no more lies, no more hiding behind business dealings. It will be primal, raw, and completely unfiltered. And in that environment, the true character of our leads will be revealed. I am betting on a moment of pure, blinding clarity, a realization that the only thing that matters is the connection they share. Whether they survive it or not is almost secondary to the impact of the act itself. It is about the principle, the choice to sacrifice, the decision to be more than just a mobster, but a friend, a brother, a protector. I am going to be glued to my screen, watching every flicker of light, every shadow, every movement. I am going to be analyzing the subtext, the glances, the pauses. I am going to be right here with you guys, ride or die, through every agonizing second, because that is what we do. We are the witnesses to this epic, the ones who care when no one else does. And if this really is the end of an era, I want to be there for every last painful bit of it. We have shared this journey for so long, and I know that whatever happens, we will be here to pick up the pieces, to argue about it, to cry over it, and to do it all over again, because that is just the beautiful, messy life of a fan. So here we are, standing on the edge of something huge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Will Jason really sacrifice everything? Will Sonny finally understand the true cost of his empire? I have my theories, and I know you guys have yours. We will see how it plays out, but one thing is certain, it will be unforgettable. It is probably best to remember that in this town, the only thing more dangerous than a man with nothing to lose is a man who thinks he has finally found something worth dying for. Just remember, if you want to keep your sanity, try not to get too attached to anyone's heartbeat, because in Port Charles, happiness is usually just a prelude to a very expensive, very dramatic funeral.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.